Hello friends and welcome. I'm Sarah Liz and I have a fun video for you today making 3 cards using the Spellbinders November Club Kit and sharing a free download that I designed to coordinate beautifully with these clubs. So on this first card, we're going to use the 3D embossing folder of the month. It is gorgeous. Like, I love this thing. And I decided to try it with some of this new glossy cardstock from scrapbook.com. This is thicker than a lot of their other specialty paper pads, and I wasn't sure between the thickness of it and the glossy nature of it if this would work. I did it once and it cracked a bunch. So I used a baby wipe to add some moisture to the back. I took more time with it than usual because it is a coated cardstock. It feels like it's not going to get wet, but it worked. Okay, so here's the first one with all that cracking, and then that second one, there is tiny little bits where it cracked, but you can barely tell. It's such a deep emboss, and I think because it's specialty cardstock, it was really quick and easy to get my scissors in there, and I'm just trimming around some of our little rosettes. The part I'm trimming was towards the crease of the embossing folder. That's just kind of the way it layers up. Then I have the nested postage labels and tags. So I have 2 of the largest postage die and then 1 for the stitched rectangle that goes inside of it. I had trimmed my pink cardstock down to be about the right size, but they always shrink up a little when you run them through a 3D embossing folder. So I'm just going to bring that in my trimmer and double check the placement. I want an equal margin on the top, bottom, and left. Then I put some foam tape all over the back. This is that 1 inch wide, 1 millimeter, so really thin foam tape from scrapbook.com. I love that it's adding some stability on a piece that otherwise might be difficult to glue onto my project. I did add some wet glue just to give me a little wiggle room as I slide that into place. You can just barely see the stitching on the top and bottom and on the left. And then I will add this onto my largest postage piece. I have cut 2 of these. The first one is like a shimmery white cardstock, and then the other is just a standard like heavyweight white cardstock. And I'm going to score this about an inch, inch and a quarter from the top. You don't need that much. If I was going to do this again, I would maybe do like a 1/2 inch. I think that would be plenty. Then I'll fold that back on the score line, and while it's folded back, I'll line everything else up using my work mat as just a third hand to get everything lined up, and then I can press that glue together. And I have an easy shape card that I think you could use for just about any stamps or dies you may have. I love that. For a sentiment, I'm bringing in a free printable from last January. It's a huge birthday kit, and this page just has a bunch of different happy birthdays. And then this is the die set I designed for Trinity Stamps Emergency Card Essentials #1. And here's the die that is intended to cut out the rectangle sentiments. But these are actually circle sentiments, and the smaller rectangle fits perfectly around this happy birthday. I love that. The word birthday is always a challenge for me. To create happy birthday in a circle format is just, it doesn't fill the space very well. And so I love that we have the smaller die here. It fits a bunch of the sentiments in that kit. I will link to that video. It's a free printable below. But I'm just going to nest those together and add them to the top left of our pink embossed panel. Look at the shine on this thing. I love it so much. For the next 2 cards, we'll use the brand new kit. So let's take a look at that. I'm calling it a mini kit, but mostly because this doesn't fit the same template as our normal kits with circles and rectangles and our standard sort of shapes and sizes of sentiments. But this is not small, right? There's a lot going on in here. So I want to kind of walk you through what's here. It says that it's the kit that goes with the November Spellbinders clubs. But please know, most of this is digital paper and you do not need the clubs at all for that. Then we have some sort of critter themed sentiments that in theory you could use with a whole bunch of different products, stamps, dies you may have from other companies. I will say though, these have a little curve to them that is specific to those dies. So this is the small die of the month for November. We have, they're calling it a sloth. It looks like the sock monkey stuffed animal guy. We have a turtle, some balloons, and then we have this banner, okay? So this banner will fit here. Happy birthday, party animal. Snappy birthday, you're really old. Okay. There is a die in here that will sort of deboss the words birthday bliss, but I like to be able to get more out of my dies and out of my kit. So I thought, let's do like a half a sheet that has extra sentiments. Then we have the large die of the month. And I'm going to tell you right now, some of my dies are a little mixed up. Like I know this one goes over here. I think that's right. I think now they're right. So we have this, we're calling it a crocagator. I did a live stream with some of my favorite crafty friends, and we went round and round for about 2 hours. Is it a crocodile or an alligator or whatever? So it's both. And we have a little frog, a car, a little sort of piece that will wave this banner behind the car. It works better, I think, on the car. And then we have some presents and party hats and things like that, a little sort of whimsical bumpy grass situation, and then this scalloped sort of large shape. There is a banner in here as well, and it coordinates then with these. Oh snap, you're really old. Oh hello, love you. Okay, so if you have these dies, this one page contains sentiments that really are for the dies. But aside from that, everything else in here is pretty generic. So let's turn this, okay? When I create these panels, I like printing my digital paper this way because it saves me ink. It is just a little bigger than an A2 panel. This way I can get exactly the crop that I want. And it just gives me a lot of variety, a lot of options for how I might be able to use it while also conserving ink. And then I'm usually filling up the other half of the page with something else, okay? So here's our first page. And then here's our second page. I love, 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 love these fluffy clouds. I made this card with some cloud pattern paper, and he like wiggles, right? We're gonna make this card today. But I have no idea where that paper is from. So I thought, let's make some cloud paper so that it's a little bit easier for people. I actually kind of like the scale of these clouds a little better. And then here, I knew I wanted to make some clouds with a road. In that same live stream, I made this one with our crocagator. He is a sliding mechanism, but I made him with a magnet. Oh, don't pull that way, right? And so he actually comes all the way off, but you can slide him that way. I don't have a tutorial, it's just in the live stream. I will link the live stream below, but I will also link a different tutorial. And be kind, it's an old one, but it'll teach you the mechanism and how you can do this really easily, right? This is a little bigger than an A2, by the way. I wanted more of the road, more room for him to move. So I have this card as well. There's that Oh Snap. These 2 pages are completely free to download for everyone. It is, however, in Patreon instead of YouTube. On these mini kits, it's just a little easier for me to keep track of some things in Patreon. So at the bottom where I usually have my download links, I will have a link into Patreon and it'll be labeled like, here's the kit. It's going to take you straight to that particular post. But if you haven't joined my Patreon already, you'll have to join. There is a free membership option. There are also 4 paid tiers, and if you join as a free member, it shows you those before you sort of get to log in for free. So I'm gonna also link right below that the video where I launched my Patreon and I walk people through everything and I show them how to get to that free tier, because I'm not trying to trick anybody. It's just kind of the way Patreon works, and I don't have the ability to change that. So in that tutorial, there's also all kinds of other details on where to find things, what tiers get what benefits, how to use your searchable databases, how to resize your image files, all those things. They have chapters in there so you can easily search and find what you're looking for. I've been getting a handful of questions, people sort of struggling to navigate Patreon. And I think it's people who joined a little bit later, so they maybe don't know that that video is there. So I want to make sure I'm always linking that for you. Okay, 2 more pieces of business, and then I'll just show you the rest of this kit and we'll make some cards. You can get these 3 images as resizable image files if you are a paid member at any tier. Paid membership starts at $2. I offer all of my images and digital papers as resizable image files for the champion tier every single time, but that's a $25 tier. And I wanted a way to give you guys access to try some of these things, at least the ones that I love the most. So there will be a link to a folder for limited time access content. And those 3 image files are available until November 10th. That's Sunday. And then you can just download them and play around with them. Also on the 10th, my class for the Scrapbooking Fun Summit, I'm going to make 3 cards. I am not scrapbooking, but my class will go live. It's a free ticket summit, so I'll leave a link to the free ticket if you don't have yours yet. But if you have the free ticket, you get 24-hour access to that class. You don't get sort of indefinite access. So I want to make sure you're looking out for it. On Sunday, they'll send you a link in your email to get to my class. You can also then download the freebie. It is a 17-page mega kit with tons of sentiments and digital images. There are 16 small digital images and a bunch of digital paper. I'm also doing a live Q&A on Sunday, and I will leave a link to that. That's just on YouTube. So if you click on that now, you can click that notify me button, and they'll sort of remind you when it's coming up. Okay, so that's our free kit. Ways to get extra stuff here. And then we have a bunch more paper. So starting at the $5 level, you're going to get a bunch more digital paper. I love this, right? I think it sort of reads masculine a little bit, though those are my favorite colors for sure. And it comes then in sort of a portrait and a landscape, right? So if I want to do a landscape card this way, I've got you covered. So that's their first bonus page, and they're going to get 6 total. Here's the second one. This is essentially the same image, but I got rid of all that background in case you wanted to do something inky or you wanted to sort of use that without that dark, heavy color. And I love this. The balloons are so festive and fun. I love that confetti. Then we have this one, a much larger sort of balloon situation. Again, they're actually the same image, but I took the cake out of this one, so you get it in both orientations. This one we have, again, in both orientations, and we're going to use this one on a card today. I always, on the first of the month, do a sneak peek video with the cards I've made so far, so you may have seen that card already. It's the frog, and the card says, "Happy Birthday." Then this is actually 2 separate pages. I like both the lighter version and the darker version. So there's one page that has this set of images with the light blue, and then another page that has this set of images with the dark blue. So you've got lots of options again. At the Saskatier $12 level and up, you'll get all of those pages and then the remaining 6 pages. For this page, again, I was kind of playing around, but you'll get the idea. So this image you'll have in both orientations instead of having the 2 separate images on this page. Then we get those balloons that I love so much in some different colorways. I love the gray in here. I just think it's really striking and a little subtle. This one is my son's favorite. He's usually not a warm color guy, but he said he loves that pop of yellow in there, which is super great. Then this one has this beautiful cluster of balloons. It is sort of what I might put on the front of a card and then put like a little sentiment towards the bottom and put a pop-up on the inside. I love the dark purple that runs through these 2. And then this one just leaves you all kinds of room in that top left corner to do some fun stuff, especially with the dies from Spellbinders where you have more balloons. And then this one's going to look a little bit different in your kit. This part will be the same, but here I just felt like these balloons were too low. So I've sort of shifted things up, and the crop is more like here, right? So you'll get more of that open space. And I love that one as well. So again, a big kit. If you're already a paid member, these will be in your searchable databases so that you can download either the resizable sentiments or you can download the PDF that has your bonus content in it. If you're not a paid member, but you want access to the entire kit, both as a PDF and as resizable image files, again, that will be in my shop in Patreon. And so I will link to that as well. Just a friendly reminder, everybody, if you can help it at all, try not to buy things from Patreon using your iPhone or your iPad. The Apple App Store, and it's Apple, okay? I can't do anything about it. The Apple App Store charges an additional 30%. They take that money. It doesn't go to Patreon. It doesn't go to me. But if you do it, I believe from a Mac computer, you should be fine because it's not going through their app store if you use an Android or a regular PC or anything like that. So if I'm telling you about membership tiers and prices and you're like, it looks different on my device, that is probably what's happening. And I apologize for that. There really isn't anything I can do. Apple sort of swooped in and said, hey, Patreon, this is what we're going to do to everybody. All right, for our first card with the new kit, we're gonna start with the frog and the car. He's so cute. This is such a unique art style. They're very whimsical and playful in nature, and they come together really quickly. I love that the large die of the month gives you so many dies in it, and it's so thoughtfully designed. Like behind his eyes, there is a die to cut out a perfect piece of black cardstock to nestle back there so you don't have to cut scraps. And then the car, we have headlights and tail lights. We have a little piece to put on the seat. You could skip a lot of that, right? You could certainly just cut this gray piece and then maybe the wheels. And I don't know that anybody would really notice. But I like to add all the pieces, especially in a video. Sometimes there are pieces in these die sets where I'm not sure. Like I spend some time digging through the packaging that comes with it to figure out how to put things together. So I want to make sure I'm giving you sort of a template if you get this die set as well. This set and the small die of the month both have 2 critters a piece. So even if your packaging isn't showing you exactly how to put that die together, definitely look at the Spellbinders website in that club section. They have sample cards for all of them, but then the packaging for some of the other clubs, like the embossing folder clubs, will kind of show you how they're using the large dies, say, in addition to the 2D embossing folder or something like that. So I have sort of assembled this little guy. I tucked him inside the car. I will say for me, putting the steering wheel in his hands first and then gluing him and the steering wheel to the car was much, much easier. And we're going to keep the background really simple. So this is one of our pages from that printable. And what I do is to trim it out, just removing all of the white borders first. Then I can get the crop that I want because I have the entire piece to work with. So I'll trim around all of that. This cupcake, compared to the size of our frog and our car, is enormous. And I just think it's super goofy and fun. I trimmed little slivers off at a time, but ultimately I've got this down to 4 by 5 1/4. So I wanted a little bit of a silver glitter frame. This is from the Treasured Cardstock collection. It's a really fantastic glitter cardstock. The glitter doesn't come off and I'm gonna hoard it. So I cut the middle out of it with my trimmer so I can use that middle section for die cuts or something like that. I also put a little shim in the middle so that my pattern paper doesn't dip. It's just 80-pound cardstock that I print on, and so this seemed a little safer. I thought about adding this guy on there with an action wobble, but in the end, I don't know, he's big enough that I think he needs a large action wobble, but there isn't enough room to really hide it all the way behind him. So I just glued him flat onto my card, and then I can work on my sentiment. So here are those extra sentiments that we have. There is a die that will deboss Birthday Bliss into this banner, but I'm gonna use Hoppy Birthday since it's our little frog, and I really love a pun on a birthday card. I'm going to go ahead and tape my die down. There is a little bit of a curve both to the banner and to the printed wording, and then I'll know where to trim around. I'm going to foil this with Pink Sparkle Cheer Foil from Pink and Maine. This is for toner printed images. So I used my laser printer, and then I have my mini Minc, which is like a fancy laminator at heat level 4 and a heavyweight A2 card base, and I just sandwiched everything in there and I'll run it through. This is at double time, but you can see it doesn't take very long. it gets really hot and it melts the little like plasticky particles that are the toner. So I want that to cool down so they sort of harden up and grab onto that foil. And when I peel it back, I get this beautiful, beautiful reveal. You could use a mini Minc. You could use the GinaK Fuse, which has a slightly lower price point. I've watched tons of videos on it. I don't have one, so I cannot speak from personal experience, but it seems like a really great machine. Or if you already have just a regular laminator, try that, but give it like 20 minutes or 30 minutes to heat up. It just doesn't get quite as hot as like a Fuse or a mini Minc that are really designed for this purpose. I have cut 2 extra banners in pink and green, and I'm layering those just to the bottom left and then to the top right to give myself kind of a mat for that, give it a little more weight and substance, and then I will glue that straight onto my card. And then I have one more detail to add to the inside. There are little presents and party hats in this set, and I really wanted to use the presents. I love how quirky they are, and they come together very quickly. It's just 2 pieces. So I added a little glue just behind the strips of ribbon, not behind the bow. And then here there's a tiny little bow. That bow is the exact same shape as the top of one of the party hats. And so you can use it there as well, just to create like a 2-toned hat. A little wet glue, and I will add the larger present first to the bottom left-hand corner, and then the pink one overlapping a little bit. I tell you what, I thought about where to put this one for longer than I care to admit, but we glued it down. We're good to go. You guys, I decorated the inside of a card, and I'm really proud of myself. So that finishes card number 2. For card number 3, we're gonna make an interactive card. So here it is. My little turtle is gonna swing from these balloons that he's floating from up into the sky. So I'm going to start by assembling the turtle. He comes together really quickly. I have loved seeing all the different colorways people used for the shell. I went with mostly greens. I don't have a lot of different green cardstocks. So the body of the turtle is actually the same as the darker green of his shell. I just took an alcohol marker to it to darken it up a little bit. And then they're kind of in the same color family. And that worked really well for me. I did have to cut a scrap to go behind the eyes of the turtle. I don't know if I missed the die for this or if this is like the one critter that doesn't have an eye die. Then I have a washer. I want something heavy that will help my turtle to swing. The more weight he has, the better he will swing. It's like any of the dancing dies. You could use a coin for this, but I prefer not to. So I am just sandwiching that washer. It's a number 10 size washer. If I can find some online, I will link them below, but I just got these at the hardware store. And then I put another shell behind him just to make sure it's sandwiched in there and it's not gonna come off. I'm gonna add my tweezers right at the top, little reverse tweezers, just to hold it and make sure that glue grabs really well, and we can move on to the balloons. Off camera, I glued together 2 separate pieces of the strings just to make them a little stronger. You might not need to do that, but it felt safer for me. And then I'm gonna add my 2 side balloons first, and then the third one at the top, I want kind of in the front. And I'm gonna make sure I'm adding glue to the places where it overlaps the other balloons as well. I want this whole thing with the balloons and the turtle to act as one piece, and I need it to be pretty sturdy. There are lots of kids in my family and then grown people who are basically children. And so I know that they're gonna play with this turtle a bunch, and I wanna make sure it's not gonna fall apart. I'm also putting together a little birthday hat here. There's a funny looking die that cuts. It's got a line on one side and then little spiky pieces that stick up. That's so you can add stripes very easily to your party hat, but you could also just draw them on. I am going to add glue all over the bottom of our balloon strings. That's going to hide entirely behind our turtle. And so just the very top of the bow is going to poke out from behind the turtle, a little bit of the string and balloons. I've also added some tape, partly to hold it on there, but also to make it a little smoother. One of my subscribers left me a comment and was like, yeah, just put tape behind it, makes it a little slicker. It swings a little better. So we're trying it. The actual swinging mechanism is going to be on the balloons, and so I wanted to make those a little sturdier as well. I cut an extra of each color, and I'll just glue those onto the back. Then we'll add our party hat just to the very top of our turtle's head. I did double up that party hat, again, just to make it a little sturdier, and then we are good to go. To create our mechanism, we have a button. There are lots of ways you could go about this, but I like a button best, right? I like this even better than a foam dot. It's gonna stick on there better. I'm making sure that the glue is going to get kind of into those holes to make sure it's grabbing on really well. And then I'm cleaning up around the outside edges. If you had more time to let it sit and like really dry, you might not need to be quite so careful as you're cleaning it up. Here I have a piece of white shimmer cardstock, and I'm going to take this large scallop shape and I'm going to cut out the middle of it. Then I have some pattern paper that I am adding onto my card base. This is actually just a panel for now because I need a place to cut a hole into this. And I cut my pattern paper to be slightly smaller just so it's not peeking out from behind everything else. I want my turtle in the middle towards the top. Okay, so I'm going to set the frame over the top, figure out where the turtle needs to be, and then I'll bring in my pencil and I'm going to make a little dot right where that button is. So I'm using my finger to kind of feel my way, and then I will move the turtle, make the dot, and I have a little die that's just slightly bigger than the button, and I'll use that die to cut a hole through this panel. To make my turtle swing, I have a slightly larger circle. It's bigger than the hole. And I'm going to tape this just to my back panel, and then I'm going to thread the button through the hole with some glue. So it is only being glued to that little circle disc. It is not being glued to the panel itself. I also have 1mm foam tape on that back panel. I did the foam first just to make sure I was leaving a hole big enough for that circle. This is our white shimmer cardstock frame, and I've added a little bit more foam around the outside edges, and I'm just removing the backing. I have my card panel in the corner of my scoreboard, but mostly I just wanted to make sure that I was getting the corners lined up. A little wet glue to give me some wiggle room with that adhesive on the foam, but I am just going to wedge this also into the corner, right? Card in the corner and then frame in the corner, and then when I lay that down, they're going to line up perfectly. I'll press that down, and now I can go ahead and add this onto my card base. I want to make sure that everything's moving well before I make it so I can't get to the inside of my card. So I'll remove that little bit of tape. I've given the glue kind of time to dry, and I'm checking, right? And for a hot second, you guys, it was stuck. For a second, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to tear this apart and start over. But no, it's going to be fine. So here is the die that is from the small die of the month, and I'm going to cut out party animal. I feel like the turtle party animal sometimes. Slowly, but with great enthusiasm. I'll cut that out, and I am going to mat this one just like the other one. I have pink cardstock this time. The first down and to the left, and then the other up and to the top right. I'm going to put this at the very bottom of my card, and I'm going to be really careful to make sure I'm not creating a catch point or impeding the movement of my little turtle. I want a little bit of extra foam there, so it's overlapping the frame, but it's also overlapping that open area. That tiny little bit of foam will make it a little bit sturdier, less likely to get crushed by small hands. A little wet glue on top just because that's a habit of mine, but probably I didn't need to do that except around the edges. And then we'll add this onto our card base. I find it easiest to tape the turtle in place so that it's not moving and wiggling around while I'm doing this. I'll remove the backing from that foam tape. It comes off really easily. And then again, I'm going to come back to my scoreboard just to simplify everything for myself. So the card base is in the top left corner, and then I wedge this guy into the top left corner, and everything works pretty smoothly. I've got a lot of dimension on the front of the card, so I find it easier sometimes to flip it over and press from the back just to make sure that everything is adhered well. But that finishes up card number 3. You guys, you could do this sort of interactive mechanism with so many dies that you have. I hope that you will give it a try. If you're interested in the free download, click more or show more beneath the video to unpack that description box, and then you'll find all of the links to Patreon along with the tutorial towards the bottom. Thank you so much for spending your time with me, and I will see you next time.